Hi, I'm Owen Casey Stevens, and this is the story of the time I went backwards bowling. The very title of this sort of gives away some of the ending, and that's intentional because that way you, the viewer, can live with the sort of sense of impending doom I had as the story went forward. This is about one of the very early times I went bowling. My sense it's the very first time I went bowling, but I can't say that for certain. And I have not gotten bowling very often since then, and this story might be part of why. I went bowling at a very young age. I was a preteen, I can't tell you exactly how old, with a church group. And the church group was a church youth group. And people would take the kids out, they'd go bowling. And the person that owned the bowling alley, or at least one of the managers, someone who worked there, was a member of the church and would show the kids how to bowl and work with them. And I'm sure give the church a cut rate on going and bowling for Jesus or whatever the idea was. And I had little or no experience bowling, and they had the bumpers in the gutter so that your ball could not go into the gutter. No matter how badly you did, it would eventually get down at the end of the lane, or so they thought. And I was very concerned about bowling because I had no instruction about bowling. I knew I wasn't going to be a great bowler off the start. And the manager or owner, whoever was our bowling ombudsman there at the alley, assured me that there was nothing I could do that was going to be a serious problem. Now, to be fair to him, he did not know me very well. I think absolutely everyone who knows me, certainly now as an adult, and nearly anyone that knew me at the time would be aware that the last thing you want to do is tell me that there's absolutely nothing I can do that would be a serious problem. First of all, I might take it as a challenge. In this case, I didn't. I just stopped worrying. And I'm a worrier. I worry about things. I get concerned. I worry about things that haven't happened yet. I try and figure out what's the worst thing could possibly happen. But I didn't. I'd been told that it wasn't a problem, was not going to be an issue. There was nothing I could do that would be a problem. So I went and I selected a bowling ball. Now, I knew just enough physics at this age to be aware that, if I want to knock over all the pins, that I want a lot of force, and force is mass times acceleration. I had no idea how fast I could make a bowling ball roll, but I knew that mass was connected to weight. So I selected the heaviest bowling ball I could lift. Now, I would like to say I mean the heaviest bowling ball I could lift by sticking my fingers in the little holes and lifting it that way, but I was not that clever. No, I picked the heaviest bowling ball that I could lift with both hands and hold to my chest. If I had done the granny bowling thing that a lot of the other kids were doing, this wouldn't have been a problem. I could have taken it, fallen on the ground, dented the floor, done a few $1,000s of damage, and that would have been the end of the matter. But no. My turn came up. I shuffled with my bowling ball up to the front, and I had watched other people bowling. There were people in other lanes, so I was well aware that you stick your fingers in the three little holes of the coconut, and you swing it backwards, and then you swing it forwards and roll it along the ground. There were maybe a dozen kids behind me, plus at least one person from the church, plus our bowling alley ombudsman, and no one in front of me. And so, in theory, the people behind me should have been safe because the ball is supposed to go forward. And I admit that I had concerns that something was going to go wrong. I had a sense of impending doom. I have some social anxiety. I don't like being in a situation where I don't feel like I understand all the various variables. And there weren't a lot of variables, but there was this great big heavy one I was holding, and I felt a lack of surety of what was going to happen. So I took it, and I swung it backwards in a great big arc, and then my arm came forward with no bowling ball. Now, there was some screaming at that point, because I had swung it quite a bit behind me. It flew behind me, it crashed on the ground, it rolled over, it smashed into the really cheap plastic seating that is around the little automated fan blow dryer. People jump for cover. I didn't hit anyone. I didn't hurt anyone. I did damage the floor of the bowling alley, although not the lane, because, normally you worry about the bowling activity when the ball hits the lane, and I sort of skipped that part. To be fair, the bowling ball ended up fairly close to the ball return, so I did complete the whole circuit. I just bypassed the bowling part. So I was mortified, and being young, I was close to tears, and several other of the children were screaming and jumping for cover. And the member of our church that had come with the pastor or youth pastor or whatever it was obviously very concerned. And so I looked at our ombudsman, and he was laughing himself silly. He had leaned up against the rack of bowling balls. He was laughing. He'd put a foot on the bowling ball that had rolled over to near where he was at that point so it wouldn't go anywhere. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm so. And he's like, no. For more than a decade, I've been telling children that there's absolutely nothing they can do that will cause a serious problem. And now I know better. So we will go with a little more instruction with children before we give them. I mean, I'm sure he said bowling balls. I heard wrecking balls, right? He assured me that the damage to the floor was not going to be a big deal because it wasn't on the lane. And everyone promised that it would be okay. It's going to be fine. It's not a problem. Not for love or money could anyone get me to swing a bowling ball again on that trip. I was done. At that point, I was in a very weirdly shaped nacho snack hut. That's where I was. I don't. Everyone else was welcome to bowl. Some people got strikes. That's all great. Having nearly killed at least one person, I was done trying to have a good time. Wrecking ball. Nothing you can do. People should know better.